You know how this is. It takes me a hot second. All right. Look, I figured out how to do that in PowerPoint the other day, make the words come on slowly. Anyway, all right. So it's our fourth series in sacred sexuality, and this one is on tantric magic. A little Buddha guy here. All right. So, like I said, in Atlanta, I worked with a yogini and I spent 3 days kind of one-on-oneing with her. She's like an amazing person. But so let me just break down what Buddhist magic is to kind of create a frame of reference for this. So Buddhist magic is very tantric. It's Tibetan tantra, but it involves songs and chant. So what I'll kind of explain to you guys tonight is the sacred syllables or the sacred sounds that are used in Buddhism for sex magic. But it involves song, chant. It creates like these light trance modes. Buddhism in general is very verbal, very vocal magic. Um, some of the words I wanted to just, whenever I use the word dharma references a body of knowledge. And the word sangha is community, just so that you guys know what that means. Um, in Buddhism, the practitioners believe to reach enlightenment, you have to activate your inner guru. It's called your inner guru. That's how you access your unactualized potential and you're able to discover the template of possibility. So that is the goal in Buddhist magic. Lots of people are familiar, if you've ever been to a yoga studio, of the mantra triple Om. That seems to be something universally people know with Buddhism. But tonight I'm going to teach you some different mantras that are used for very specific work. So Buddhism also, the Buddhist magic, dream yoga is a big thing, Bardo yoga, and I'll explain what Bardo is. Bardo is like liminal space or astral plane. There's Kundalini sex yoga. We've talked about that, the Kundalini a little bit. Sometimes it's referenced as Tantra yoga, same difference. And tantrics, when I say tantrics, these are not monks. I think a lot of people think of these as being monks. These are yoginis and they're women. Okay, they're powerful women who teach tantric yoga. So that's the difference. There's two types of yoginis. So one will practice around 20 to 30 minutes a day, and the other is very monk-like because they usually practice 8 to 12 hours a day. So what I'm teaching you tonight is the 20 to 30 minute a day yogini practice for sex magic. So most of the practices do come from Nepal, the southern part of Nepal. Um, One of their main philosophies is taming our demons and turning to Dharma, the body of knowledge inside of ourselves. It's part of what's called the Bon tradition, which is 17,000 years old. And if you research Bon tradition in Buddhism, these are like monk practitioners, male practitioners who like were very into like lost continents like Lemuria, Atlantis. There's a lot of that in the Bon tradition that they pull their supposed like mantras and works from. Lots of animism, lots of shamanism. There are some Afghanistan roots to this work and some Chinese roots as well. So just as a historical reference. Oh, damn it. Here we go. And then here's a little map just to kind of wanted to show you, like, this is the area. So this is really where this practice comes from right here. A little bit of Afghanistan, a little bit of Mongolia. All right. So a couple other things to know about what I'm going to be showing you tonight. A lot of the arts that I'm going to show you or I'm going to explain to you what they are, it's not just art in Buddhism, it's actually magic. These are like spells. These are trans-dimensional portals, which usually have a deity in the depiction. And these are actually used in spell work in Buddhist magic. What you'll see a lot of times is the rainbow body form. This is a mystical phenomena where a really, really good practitioner, the belief scope is that your physical body actually transforms into light. and dissolves at the time of death, leaving behind only hair and nails. I mean, there's no proof of that online, but that's what they say. And then there's mandalas. So mandalas, I have a lot of pictures of those here. It's called a protection wheel. It's very complex. It's a sacred diagram. It represents the cosmos and our enlightened mind. So Buddhist magic, and especially with sex magic, you will see a lot of mandala work. It is a tool for meditation and spiritual practice. It's used to visualize the deities you're working with in their realms and aiding you, obviously, on the path to enlightenment. One neat thing I wanted to point out are sand mandalas. So, up here, these two pictures here, that's actually sand. They do these beautiful sand mandalas. It takes them weeks and months to create these intricate designs with all these different colored sands, and then they intentionally destroy it after they've created it. And that is an art of it's a symbolic, it's magic, but it's symbolic of the impermanence of life. So I thought that was a wild tradition when I was watching these videos. This yogini showed me of these beautiful sand mandalas that they were just destroying. I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't even believe it. Anyway, in Buddhism, magic is a moralist system, and they consider themselves to have morals and that their magic benefits others and the world. They do not believe in demons. So Buddhists have no concept of evil. They only believe in sentient beings, right? And no matter what they represent, they're helping us walk and wake through the process of living. So there's no good, there's no bad, there's just opportunities to learn through these sentient beings. Um, Buddhists do not do exorcisms unless, I mean, they have some weird things going on nowadays, but that's not true Buddhist magic. In Buddhist magic, there are no exorcisms. They'll help the person just to get things functioning again by integrating energy again. There is something called quantum Buddhism or quantum Buddhies. Every time I say Buddhies, I laugh. But that's how it's pronounced. They do believe that reality can be manifested, and so they're kind of like the spell casters, in Buddhism. It is very patriarchal, lots of men. So yoginis, if you do Buddhism, if it's interesting to you, I would work with a yogini. Otherwise, you're going to work with one of these very, I don't know. They're just, it's a very patriarchal, whatever. Anyway, moving on. Tantric magic. So this is healing. It is part of sex magic. And I will tell you, this part of sex magic, it's not risky, but there is one risk, and I just want to present that. We work with the black Tara and red Tara, which I'll explain a little bit. But a lot of times in sex magic, working it for healing, and you ask for guidance or direction in that healing process, like things can get a lot worse for you before they get better. There's a saying that, if you ask a deity to help you, well, maybe they think you need, a broken leg to heal, or you need to lose your job, or you need something horrible to happen to heal, and they will do that. So I always say be careful what you ask for, especially in this practice. It is considered energy magic. It's using the astral plane, which is considered, it's called bardo in Buddhism, where you actually become the field versus tapping into it. So that's a huge difference too. You're becoming that energy. You're not just accessing it. So a couple other things to understand about Buddhism before I break down the sex magic angle is reincarnation. So I have like this little chart here. Whatever your beliefs, if when you practice Buddhism, any form of the magic within it, you're usually acknowledging that reincarnation aspect. In Buddhism, they believe in hell realms. There's many lands of death, or bardo, which is the state between death and rebirth. This is a concept that encompasses a lot of different phases, though. It's not just the period between lives, but it's other transitional moments in our waking, living life now. So, like when we're asleep, when we're in deep meditation, this is considered bardo states. The term basically signifies a gap or interval where consciousness exists without a solid physical body. So anytime that happens, that provides us an opportunity for spiritual growth and awakening. Um, So other interesting concepts here with the Buddhist angle and sex magic is the 8 hot hells and the 8 cold hells. And I love talking about this just because the visual alone, right? So the 8 hot hells are broken down into 3 categories. And in each one of these 3 hells, there's like different levels of hell. So there's Samjiva. So this is the hell of reviving or repeating attacks. So this is where beings are repeatedly attacked and tormented. There's Kala Sutra, which is the hell of, they call it black lines or black wires. This is where beings are tortured with saws that are guided by these black lines. And then there's Maharava. My pronunciation sucks with some of these, but it's the hell of great screaming. And this is where beings are tormented by burning grounds and devoured by animals, which I have a picture of right here for you. So they have very interesting beliefs. These are stages in reincarnation. So depending on how you lived your life, the choices you made, you may have to go to one of the 8 hells or cold hells before you reincarnate. Um, the 8 cold hells, I have a little diagram here. Obviously, these are the very intense cold and suffering from the cold. There's Arbuda, which is the hell of freezing while your skin blisters. So you suffer from extreme cold with blistering skin. There is Narabuda, which is the hell of freezing while the blisters break. So it's actually a deeper level of hell. So this is where the blisters are now breaking open and exposing your frozen flesh. And there is Mahapadma, which is the great lotus hell. This is where you're frozen so severely that your body starts to fall apart over and over and over again until you're able to reincarnate. So it's kind of like a message that, you know, don't be a fuckstick because like based on how you live your life, you may have to go through several of these layers before you're able to reincarnate. So I just thought it was interesting that it's a little bit different from some of the other, spiritual belief systems that we talk about. Other things in Buddhism besides sex magic is weather magic, dice divination, and then there's smoke ceremonies. One of the ceremonies that I actually like is it's very simple, but they have statuary of their 21 Terras or whoever they work with, and they actually feed sesame seeds to their statues as offerings. So that's if you ever go to a house and there's like a Ganesha or a Buddha and there's sesame seeds there, they're practicing Buddhist magic. There's other very specific rituals. There's the Great Cloud Sutra ritual, which again is constructing one of those mandalas, which is a spell, basically a visual spell. And they make these ritual cakes called tormas, and they recite specific mantras to create weather or change the weather. Their form of dice divination is known as Mo. It's Tibetan. And I actually have played with Mo dice before, like not really to divine, but just to see how they work. But again, it's a fortune telling device, and it actually involves deities and one's own higher self to kind of solve problems, ask specific questions with the dice. It even comes with a little manual. So like there's a manual for it that the Tibetan high priest like made, 16,000 years ago or whatever. And one other fun fact is there is a Buddha. His name is the Sorcerer Buddha. He has predicted the earth will be annihilated in the year 2030. So that's a little fun fact for you if you ever wanted to dive into end of world predictions. The Sorcerer Buddha says 2030. All right. Okay, so before we get into sex magic, which we're doing right now, is I wanted to introduce to you the Buddhist deities involved in sex magic. And so right here on the end is the red Tara. There's 21 Taras in Buddhism. And in sex magic, there's only 2 that you work with. There's the red Tara here and the black Tara here in the middle. This on the end is just a planetary hexagram. I'll explain that later. But these are the 2 deities that you would do mantras or malas for in sex magic. Now, before I move on, just curious, does anybody notice anything familiar about these deities, these Buddhist deities? Do they look like maybe any other deities you've seen in any other belief systems or religious structures? Anybody? No? Yes?
Is it like that they're red? Like red devils or something, or
Nope, nope. So like I'll point it out to you later, but I
Something.
there's a very good omnistic point I can make here, which I will. I just wanted to see if you guys thought they looked familiar at all. If not, that's totally fine. I'll
The one
explain that later,
on the
but
left, and it looks like it could be from a tarot deck or something.
it could be, but I was thinking more like other deities or angels that you
Oh,
may have seen in sacred texts before. So that's okay. So just like remember this image. I'll show them to you again, but um it's very interesting. So let's talk about the red Tara. So this is the female goddess of magic. The red female deity, she usually is depicted with fire, bones. She has a lot of duality in her depictions. She does have other names like Vajra Yogini, same thing as Red Tara. Other name that she goes by as Kurukula. So all of these names are used, but Red Tara is easy enough to remember. So, very prominent female deities, always in the color red. This particular aspect of her, she embodies enlightenment, but she is known for her powers of attraction, subjugation, and transformation of desire. Now, the Black Tara, who is in the picture next to her, also one of the 21 Taras, another aspect of this god. She's also very compassionate and she has that enlightenment. However, she's depicted with that dark complexion and that fierce expression and multiple arms because she is known for overcoming obstacles. So she embodies a lot of protection, healing, and then the removal of obstacles in those areas. And it's the combination of these two um, kind of specializations is why we work with these two versions of Tara and sex magic. So in Buddhism, the main deity you work with to gain power, it's a little bit different than in other belief systems. Like in Hinduism, you give offerings, but it's a very there's a lot of humility there. You don't become the deity, you're worshiping the deity. In Buddhism, you become the deity, you embody that energy, you are the same. It is this God, it's called the Godhead Assumption. It is also something that you need to learn to do before that final stage of empowerment spiritually. So I like that about Buddhism, I'm be honest with you, because in Christianity, in Hinduism, in Jain, in a lot of practices, there's this worship element. And in Buddhism, you are the same. You become that deity. So I like that. I like the Godhead assumption where, there's that empowerment and embodiment. Okay, so the planetary hexagram, the reason I wanted to show you this is it always has 4 points representing 5 elements. Now, people who work with her, I use the word worshipers, that's funny, but it's not worship, but her followers, I should have used the word followers, sorry, are usually depicted surrounding her in these hexagrams. These are used in sex magic. They're usually burnt like sigils. If you've ever seen me do a rook cast, then you know what I'm talking about. But the hexagram is associated with Tibetan Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism specifically. This symbol will represent whichever female deity you're working with. In this one, it's the red Tara. It does also represent the interplay of masculine and feminine principles because you kind of need to pull both when you're doing sex magic. You will see, like we talked a month or two ago about symbols, right? And here you'll see the two triangles forming the hexagram. It's also called the Dharma Doya or Daya, Dharma Daya in Buddhism, which is, it translates in Buddhism to the source of reality or the source of phenomena. And the reason I'm telling you guys all these kind of details is because if you ever did decide to incorporate this, I just want you to know like all of this. I don't want you to like be just jumping into shit that you don't understand. So, this concept is linked to the feminine principle as being the continuous source of reality. Us females, we're like the whole source, right? Like we keep things flowing. And that is what this symbol really does kind of portray. So it can also represent the 4 elements, of course, or the classical planets. So you can kind of tweak this if you're like an astrologer who's doing sex magic with with a Buddhist tantra, flavor to it. So you can incorporate all those things. Like you might put the planets in the outer shell. So you can play with this a little bit. It is also linked to the Hermetic principle as above, so below. So traditional witchcraft, Solomonic witchcraft. So it does signify the connection between different realms. So I just like, again, I don't want to show you a picture and not tell you what it means. So that's why I wanted to. Okay, here's the fun part. Here's my fun. Let me move this out of the way. I got to move this. Ah, shit. That's not what I meant to do. Ah, how did I do that, you guys? Hang on, I'll get it back. I'll get it back. Okay, can you guys see me? Or I mean, can you see I'm sorry, not me. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here is why I asked you the question earlier. So on the far left here, so I'm omnistic. And as an omnist, I believe in divine source and that divine source has many names and many faces and many people worship it differently, but it's the same energy. So take God, for example. God has many names, Tetragrammaton, Adonai, um, Yahweh, but also known in Hinduism or in Orisha practice by a different name altogether, right? Or he looks very different. And so in Omnism, we believe that many deities are really just one energy and it goes by very different names depending on how you worship or practice. So this to me, the red Tara, the black Tara in Buddhism, right here on the far left, she's Buddhist. Doesn't she look a lot like Kali Ma from Hinduism? Exact same picture. She's standing on men. She has a necklace of heads. Kali Ma stands on, she has a necklace of severed heads. And then here's Goetic, an infernal. She's from Christianity, from polytheistic texts, from Christian texts, old school Solomonic Christian texts. Kali, same name, different letter, spelt differently. Right here on the far right is considered an infernal, one of the 72 demons of hell, right? She's one of the Goetic. Now, it's the same in my book. It's the same spirit, and it's going by three different names and three different cultures. But at the end of the day, it is the same energy just being tapped into differently. And so this gave me an opportunity to kind of visually show you guys what I'm talking about when I say omnism. So for me, I may do work for Kali Ma. I may do work for Red Tara, Black Tara. I may do work for Kali. However, to me, these aren't different. These are not different deities. It is the same deity. I'm approaching them maybe a little bit differently based on whatever religious or spiritual context I'm working on at that time, but it's the same source. Just like God is God, but he has 100 different names, right? So I just kind of wanted to point that out because I thought that it was meaningful. So do you guys understand that? Do you understand what I mean when I say it's the same deity and they're not really different, or is that confusing?
No, I
Oh,
understand.
I get it.
Okay, I just had to take a drink of coffee there. All right. All right, moving on. Sorry. I get sometimes. All right, so I want to teach you what the different breakdowns of the mantra actually mean before I teach you a mantra. So who here has been to yoga and has done mantras before? Has anybody here done any kind of mantras like in a yoga class, or has nobody done this? Okay, nobody. All right. So, um, I can send this to you too, but this was just a quick breakdown of what a mantra and the letters, what they mean. So, Om is purity of the Buddha's body. That's your body, speech and mind. Mani, it's compassion. It's the feminine aspect. Padme is wisdom. Hum is unity. And it breaks it down here too in terms of what it addresses. So a lot of times, like I'm using yoga as an example because usually that's where people are doing mantras and don't even realize it. So here, when I show you these different words on the next pages and you're seeing the word ma, ni, pad, they are addressing different energies: pride, jealousy, selfishness, ignorance, craving or desire, anger. So each word in Buddhism is sacred. Sacred words because they create sacred sounds. So that is a, again, that Buddhist vocalization is magic. This is spell casting by saying words and syllables and sacred words that, go together in very specific patterns. And so I wanted to show you kind of what that looks like here, what that means, what the meanings are. Pronunciation is always another hard thing in Buddhism. Some of these words are very easy to pronounce, some are not. So, like this word right here is tutare, ture, vidya. These are easy ones here. Avarana, like, so I did this for you guys so that you had a pronunciation key, because that's the hardest part of me with this particular form of sex magic is pronunciation. And pronunciation is important because, again, sacred words, sacred syllables, sacred sounds. So we have to try to do it right. And each deity has its own mantra. So the red Tara, black Tara have different mantras. So the red Tara mantra is associated with magnetization, attraction, influencing others. So it's, sex magic is influence and persuasion. So it doesn't need to be the act of sex or some guy you're trying to pick up. It can be that you're at a conference giving a speech and you want people to be receptive to you. You want people to understand you. So that's another area, the red Tara would work in. Again, this mantra is used to draw fortunate circumstances, overcome obstacles, and transform your desires into positive actions. So that means manifest things. Now, her mantra right here is tare, tutare, tare, sarva. Or I'm sorry, sarva. See, I can't even, I get tongue tied. But I will tell you, a mantra always has usually 10 syllables, and it's a combination of these very specific words, and it's magic. When you say it, you're casting a spell, right? Because you're enlisting the red Tara to create something. So it's sometimes paired with other phrases depending on your intention, but there is a literal translation here. These silly words mean, like right here, Oma Terry, I pray, O Terra, O swift one, so be it. It's a spell. And I know a lot of people do not link Buddhism or Buddhists to spell casters, but they really are. So you would recite this in your mind, or until you're tired, which is 108 times, which people do with malas. You don't have to count to 108. People use malas to count to 108, but are you guys with me so far? I know there's a lot here. I apologize, but we're almost done. So hopefully I didn't overdo it again. Meaning of the mantras. I did want you to also have more of a, like what we just did, the mantra for Red Tara, what it means. A lot of this is kind of referencing just aspects of her power that you're invoking, her ability to liberate you from suffering, how she represents protection from external dangers and black magic. So tutare is that specific word. She represents freedom from internal fears and emotional blockages. So ture. So each one of these words actually represents a facet of the spell. So Om is usually always going to start it because that's the universal sacred sound representing ultimate reality. And then it's going to break down into the deity and what you're trying to manifest. So I hope that makes sense. There's, Fat, you're going to see a lot. That's a powerful symbol. It shatters negativity. So in Buddhist magic, just using that one word by itself is powerful. So again, I can send this to you. It's like a dictionary breakdown here. I just wanted to kind of give you an overview that there is meaning to each one of these syllables. Each one is a spell. So this last one here, swaha, that's establishing and sealing the intention within your being. So that ends the spell, right? So you'll see in some of these mantras, that is the end word because it's sealing the spell. All right, the Black Tara mantra is a little bit different because she is, you have the red Tara who, is lust and love. And then you have the Black Tara that's going to fuck somebody up if they're fucking with you. The Black Tara is really going to, she's like, she's like Kali Ma more than anything else. Like she doesn't mess around. If somebody's hurting you and they're doing something bad, she's a protector, a divine protector. Um, so she also removes obstacles, negativity, and harmful influences around you. So she brings you wisdom too. Now, with her mantra, as you can see up here, it is quite long. I can, like I said, I will email this to you if you'd like. But there's a little bit more of a process with the Black Tara because she's a little bit more of a potent deity. So the first step is visualization. So when you're doing Black Tara work, you do have to visualize her. There's a very specific way that you have to visualize her. She always has to be seated on a lotus throne. She usually has a protective aura of fire around her, and you always want to visualize her with her right hand extended and a gesture of giving, while her left hand is holding a lotus or any sort of ritual implement to the spell that you're working on. And then you do the mantra recitation. You're gonna recite the mantra with your focused intention. You can do that out loud mentally or using your mala beads, which I'll explain. That's that a mala has 108 beads on it, so you don't have to count 108 times. Ideally, it should be 108 times. Now, there are some shortcut spells, but you have to do it at least 21 times to have any kind of benefit. If you do it less than that, it probably isn't going to be very beneficial because, again, sacred sound, sacred syllables, it's that vocalization, that's the spell. And if you don't get enough of that, I guess, sacred sound out, it can't change the energy. And then the third part here, intention and focus. So again, as you're reciting the mantra, focusing on what you're wanting, um, visualizing her. I mean, these are all kind of like repetitive, but it is kind of a process with her because at the end of this, when you're finishing your spell, you want to feel the vibrations of that mantra. And when you're feeling those vibrations, that's Black Tara energy too. And again, I put just another pronunciation list, same one as I posted earlier, but and this is the Black Tara. So you'll notice the Black Tara is different from the Red Tara. She's not standing on men. She's not wearing a necklace of severed heads. She doesn't have severed heads in her headpiece. She does have a lot of fire snakes and scary looking creatures around her, but um she's not like exploiting masculine energy, I guess is a good way to say that. That's the main difference between the two in art depictions. Other ways you can do mantras are with a mantra necklace. This is a Red Tara mantra necklace. That literally is the Red Tara mantra I just taught you, using that Om script I showed you when we started this. So that's a very easy way to constantly kind of have the mantra on you as well. If you don't like beads, if you don't like counting, benefits of the mantra, obviously we kind of went over that, but some other things is if somebody's crossed you, somebody's cursed you, hexed you, it's protective. It's protective, if there's a harmful influence around you, like maybe you started seeing somebody and they're not the greatest guy, it'll expose that. It will make that known as a way to protect you. Removing obstacles and blockages that hinder your progress, helping you to be wiser, more compassionate, more fearless in life. So I think that, this is a very beneficial form of sex magic from a spiritual level. And again, mantras are spells. Rhythm vibrates cells in your body into alignment. So songs, whether they're slow or fast, in Buddhist magic will heal, protect. They've used this to start and stop wars, mantras. I mean, real legit wars. So, I mean, there is some historical referencing here. I mean, it's been used for 17,000 years since the Bon tradition. All right, so a spell on a string of beads is called a mala, and sometimes they do break, but unlike, a lot of people talk about having these evil eye jewelry pieces breaking and, oh, okay, just let them, go because it protected you. No, no, no. If your mala breaks, you need to restring them. I mean, it happens, but they need to be restrung. This is a sacred and personal magical artifact. It's carried as a symbol of your practice. It carries the charge of your work that you do. Now, back in the day, you would actually have to hide this in a bag where nobody could see it. And you always had to be very humble with them and you had to protect them. Now, nowadays, things have changed. Nowadays, in modern times, they should be shown and shared because they consider that a way of feeding energy to the mala. So it has changed significantly in the last like couple hundred years. But it's wisdom in talisman form. So it is a talisman. It is almost like its own living being or egregore, and it will help you ground too. That's the other nice thing with malas. Even if you're not casting with them, they are a great grounding tool if you're in a tough situation. Um, they did come out of what's called the Cho practice. And so I'm just going to give you a very light taste of this because it is a little dark. But the Cho practice is one of the oldest practices in Buddhism. It's where the mala first kind of gained steam as their spell crafting device. Um, and in the Cho practice, you have a Cho practitioner usually seen with heavy drums. They don't do drum circles. They usually have a bell, a couple of skull cups that they use for different purposes. But in Cho, it is a way to cut through obstacles like your ego or attachments to things, to realize the emptiness of those things to achieve enlightenment, basically. So the dark part of this is it uses visualization and chanting, and the ritual instrument is really you and your body. And through this visualization process, and this is a truth, they still do this to this day. You have all these people at these, I don't like rituals, and you visualize your body being cut up and destroyed, and then putting your body in cups and feeding it to deities and demons and the other people at the ritual. And it's a way to overcome self-clinging and develop compassion. It's called a cutting through ceremony. And it's supposed to be, again, to sever attachments and ego. But yeah, it's kind of a gross practice and not talked about a lot. But this Cho practice is where malas really kind of gain steam as spell items, as sacred artifacts. And again, sitting there and visualizing yourself being dismembered and then offered to entities is a way to overcome your human traits is kind of a weird whatever, but I just wanted to throw it out there. So they also, some of the other interesting things is they had this thing called a kingling. It's a trumpet made from a human thigh bone. I mean, they were kind of dark, some of these old Buddhist like monks, right? But again, they were very fearless, very compassionate. They had deep understanding. And these visualization rituals would go on for about 30 minutes. Again, just kind of dark, but I wanted you to know the origins of the mala. So the mala, 108 beads. There are varieties nowadays that like pocket malas or mala bracelets that only have 27 or 54 beads. It's always going to be a multiple of 9. If you guys remember last month or the month before, 9 is a sacred number in yoga and sex magic. 108 is a sacred number in many religions and cultures. There's a lot of connections to that number, 108. Anyway, in traditional Buddhism, this represents the number of mortal desires that we have to overcome to achieve nirvana. That's why it's sacred in Buddhism. So mala beads are a tool. Again, it does help you to recite your mantra or your spell that 108 times. Technically, it's 100 times. If you move your fingers along the beads properly, I mean, some people, they don't. So they kind of put in 8 extra beads there just to make sure the mantra was said at least 100 times, but just 108 is good. Now, what's in it? What's in a mala? There's marker beads. Marker beads are optional. They're usually special beads at certain points along your mala to let you know where you're at in your spell or in your meditation. So it's very common to put a marker bead halfway through, right after bead number 54, so that you know that you've reached the halfway point of your mantra, your spell. So it also can help you kind of dial back into what you're doing, because a lot of us, when we're doing spells or meditations, our mind starts to wander and we have to refocus. So it's a good way to, using marker beads is a good way to do that. There is always a guru bead on an authentic mala. It's also called the Meru bead. It mountain bead. It has a lot of different names, but basically that's the 109th bead, right? It's not counted as part of the 108 beads because the guru bead is your teacher bead. It's said to hold all your petitions and your intentions. So you always start and end with this guru bead. So when you're using a mala for spell casting, you would hold that bead, set your intention before you start your mantra. So yeah, I mean, it kind of, when you end at it, it's sealing. You know how that last word seals the spell with the mantra? This bead seals your mantra recitation using the mala. So it's sealing, if that makes sense to you guys. So you're kind of sealing the spell twice. You're sealing it with the mantra and you're sealing it with the guru bead when you finish your recitation. Some people use gemstones for that. Um, I put some examples here, like if you have a rose quartz mala, which is usually for love or self-love, you would maybe use an Amazonite stone to represent the commitment you're making to connect to your truest self and to speak your truth. Because a lot of times self-love does mean speaking up for yourself and expressing to others what you need, right, Amanda? The other element here, and I have a little picture here, is the tassel. Again, it's optional, but the nice thing if you use a tassel on your mala is it's a great way to also use essential oils. You can put those right in the tassel. So like if, you know, lavender oil is a great, you know, addition to a tassel that you're using as a mala to de-stress, to calm, to deal with anxiety issues. So it's just kind of an optional thing. So, and you'll see a lot of like the fancier malas always have like a really nice tassel there so that you can incorporate essential oils. And then I put this couple of cute little sayings here. Untie your mind, not your intention. I love this saying. That's like such a beautiful saying. But so even if you're a beginner, you can find the practice of making your own mala to be really relaxing, very rewarding. It is an extension of you and what you're desiring. So it's a very powerful spell casting artifact. So that's why I wanted to break it down for you tonight. So a sex magic mala, this is the specific recipe for you you can use. It's 121 beads plus your charm and tassel. So for your when I start off here, are you guys still with me? I can't see you. I don't know if you guys are like, holy fuck, Michelle, this is a lot. We're almost done. I swear to God, we are. I probably went a couple slides too long on this one, but I wanted to give you a lot of information. So the first thing I put here was the Tibetan lotus, the yoga, the om, the yin yang chakra charm with a tassel. You're going to, if you decide to incorporate this, you would put this right after bead 54, like a halfway marker point. I recommend Chinese knot tassels for a sex magic mala. They come in rainbow, and you would put that at the halfway marker as well. So those two things are optional. But I wanted to definitely include those for you. So your mantra beads, every 9 beads. The mantra bead has Om Mani Padme Hum written on it. You can get those on Amazon. Those would be marker beads or spacer beads that you would be using every 9 beads. So you would need a total of 12 of those. For my guru bead, for a sex magic mala, I use an 18 karat gold Buddha head. You would only need one of those. And then I like 6mm stone beads. You guys can do whatever, but I think those work good in sex magic. Those are your 108 beads. For sex magic purposes, use a mix of 7 stones. So 15 of the 7 equals 105. So there's 3 additional black obsidians I use also just to kind of do the math for you because the math won't math unless I do that. So black or silver hematite for grounding and protection. You're going to have 15 of those. Black tourmaline for dispelling negativity, absorbing electromagnetic radiation and pollution around you. There's 15 of that. Kunzite comes in pink or violet. That's also for healing, love, and peace. 15 stones for that. A magenta tiger eye. That's for confidence, focus, and protection. So you would want 15 of those stone beads. Black obsidian for clarity, your past traumas, your shadow work, your golden shadow, and sex magic. You would want 18 of those beads. Purple amethyst for intuition, growth, and insight. You would want 15 of those beads. And then the rose quartz, I go pink rose quartz for your heart chakra, self-love, really all love intents. Forgiveness and balancing, you would want 15 of those. So this is the exact recipe for a sex magic mala that you can make yourself. And then you already have the mantra, so you could mantra for red Tara or black Tara, depending on your intent. So you have the whole spell kit here in tonight's presentation. And we're at the questions part. Sorry. As I was talking and tripping on my tongue, I was like, it was a lot, but I don't know. I don't know how not to make it a lot, you guys. But anyway, questions. Amanda, you're talking and I can't hear you.
Do the stones have to be in a certain order, or can they be like all
They can
purple
be,
one section, all pink one section, all black another section?
you can customize it. Yeah, I mean, it's really up to you. The reason those stones work best in sex magic is because typically you're doing a mantra to either red or black Tara, right? If you're taking the Buddhist approach, so you want stones that you're using to be stones that connect to them and connect to your intent. So you can put them however you want. You would just do a marker bead every 9 beads. You would do your halfway marker spacer bead and then your guru bead, but the rest of the beads you can use those however you want to put them out. Yeah, so yeah, that's a good question. Any other questions? Excellent question, Amanda. I gotta drink some coffee, my throat hurts. All right, so I know it's a lot, but I'm explaining something totally foreign and new, and I feel like I don't want to jip you guys out of important information, and I want to make sure I explain things thoroughly. Did it seem like I explained it thoroughly, or is there a lot of like, I don't understand or get it, which is fine. I'm just curious.
Well, I feel like I understand while you're explaining it. I feel like you're good at explaining it, but whether or not I'm going to remember all that stuff is a whole
Right.
nother
It's a
thing.
lot. Well, yeah, you won't. You won't. Like, I would have to send you the fucking thing for you to like, yeah, there's no way you can remember all that. I can't remember all of that without reading. You know what I mean? Like, I have to read it and have it in front of me, or I get, yeah, it's a lot of information. I do think it is one of the stronger forms of sex magic, and I think that because well, Buddhism is very old, but you're incorporating the tangible with the intangible, and that's what I like about it. And you're also incorporating methods that use your body, like sacred sound. So that really resonates with me. I like the way that this kind of complements, what we're trying to do, which is why I wanted to present it to you guys. Plus, it's something you can do yourself. You don't have to go out and do anything big. These beads are pretty affordable. You can get them anywhere, right? And you can actually make it, and then it becomes like a sacred object. And then all you have to do is like memorize 10 syllables, right? Just memorize the 10 syllables. How hard is that? But yeah, I mean, yeah, I like it. I have, when I was in Atlanta and I was working on this for 3 days with this yogini, and it just like really like resonated with me, which I got really excited to just share it with you guys. I wanted you to have the same information I got, I guess.
What kind of what kind of like intentions did you have when you were like making your mala and things, and what kind of effects did you notice while practicing it?
So I am fairly new to red Tara. I have worked with black Tara before under the guise of Kali Ma and Kali in the Goetic. So with red Tara, I'm doing a lot more with her. So with black Tara, it's usually one thing for me, and that's protection, right? Protection as I do my work. Protect me from, really with black Tara, it's protect me from myself. Protect me from making stupid choices and allowing harmful influences into my life. So I ask for exposure. I ask her to show me what I'm not seeing. And so that is what like the black Tara really resonates with me. With red Tara, it is more self-oriented, but I also am looking at my future. So it's more future planning. So red Tara, especially right now, like with Mala I made, which is a little different. It's like it's all amethyst for the most part. But the reason it's that way is, well, first of all, I was born in February, but the other thing is that I am planning for a lot of my decisions to be based on relationships in the upcoming 6 months. And because their love is so involved in that, like with my children, with my ex, with my new partner, with all of this stuff going on, like love has a way of confusing and blindsiding us and making us see things that aren't there. So it's really clarity with love is what I'm going to Red Tarot for right now. That was a really long answer to your question, but that's the answers. So funny. God, I'm so long-winded sometimes. It's ridiculous. It's fine. Did that answer your question? Hopefully I did. Did I, Lisa?
Yeah, but like, has there been a moment where like you really like noticed like, wow, I'm glad I've been doing this? Like you're like, aha.
So I have noticed a vibrational effect. I haven't seen anything big, but again, I need to do this a little bit longer. But what I have noticed so far is a vibrational effect. So like when I do stuff, I look for cues. Like, and a lot of it, like I need a sensory cue. Like, and with doing malas and mantras, I do as I near the end of like my 188 or my 108 recitations, I do notice like a vibration. Like I do feel something, like I feel like a higher kind of pulse. So there is something there. There's something to it. You know what I mean? Like I can feel it. You know, it's a sensory reaction. So I think I need to do this a little bit more consistently, a little bit longer. I do feel divinely protected, but you know, it's hard for me to pinpoint if that's Black Tara or if that's the other 500 deity I solicit every day too. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint that, um, but yeah, to answer your question, I have noticed a vibrational change when I do the work.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Or should we just start or shit talking again? I don't remember what were we shit talking. we were talking about something. Did I tell you guys about the speed dating on Saturday? It was at
No,
the WYZ bar in the Mill District here in Minneapolis. Did I not tell you guys?
I don't think
No.
so. But I know that where the Mill District is. We were there.
Yeah, so it was a WXYZ in the Mill District, and it was a bunch of old